she kept saying like, try IVF again, try it. I think it'll work this time. Because I had like sworn off IVF. I was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. After I would eat, I would immediately just feel horrible. I worked on health qualities. Like we just took so much time to get ready. I couldn't believe that it was all through.
We are back with another episode of Mothering Holistically, a podcast amplifying everyday moms' voices, creating space to share stories, practical tips, and inspiration. I'm your host, Kaylee Berlinee, a mama finding balance in motherhood because balance is key when mothering holistically. So no matter where you are connecting with us from, please subscribe and give us feedback. It really helps the show grow as we continue to make this podcast motivational and helpful for you all. Today, we are chatting with Shivan Segrest, founder of the Wellness Whisk, a dedicated health nutritionist, foodie, wife, and proud mama. After facing chronic gut inflammation, extreme fatigue, infertility, and consistent disappointment from conventional medicine, Shivan took control by partnering with a naturopathic doctor and a nutritionist. So through simple yet transformative diet and lifestyle shifts, she healed from the inside out, regained her strength, and successfully navigated IVF to welcome her precious daughter. Now, with a focus on fertility and IVF coaching, Shivan empowers other women to address root causes, embrace hope, and thrive on their motherhood journeys. So Shivan, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to dive into your story today. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So I just want to jump right in. Kind of tell me a little bit about your history, your journey through where everything started. When did it start where you knew that you were struggling?
So we had been trying to conceive for a little bit. And I went to see a doctor and had some testing done. And I just had a little bit of like hormone imbalances, but my husband had previously had a vasectomy with his ex-wife. They were done having kids, and when we met, he reversed it. So we also knew that was going to be probably causing difficulties for us getting pregnant. Long story short, I didn't get pregnant after just several rounds of IUI, and we tried IVF several times, and just nothing was working. And I just never felt good. I had so many gut issues. I was just constantly tired, even though I would drink coffee all day, and I was, thought, oh, I'm healthy. I work out, I eat well, but I didn't really know what was, all the symptoms and signs my body was giving me. And my best friend kept telling me, go see a naturopath, like maybe something is wrong. So I finally listened to her, like when I was just tired of the IVS failing and like at the brink of my like limit with everything. I took a break from fertility treatment. Found this amazing naturopath who just helped me heal my gut, work on my hormones. We did testing, and her clinic also had a nutritionist who helped me learn how to eat properly. And I just healed so much over that. It was almost a year. And I just like felt like I literally left my body and went into a new body. Like I had so much energy. Wow. I just felt so different, and I couldn't believe that it was just all through supplements and food, like lifestyle changes, not, no single medicine pill. And I just became really fascinated with it and just loved the idea of food as medicine. And that's when I started being interested in becoming a nutritionist myself. And then when I became a nutritionist, I initially didn't have the fertility niche. I was just, working on maybe helping women lose weight or whatever it is they wanted. Yeah. But last year or two, I've really honed in on fertility because that's, just kind of like what I enjoy doing. I have a lot of experience in that area, unfortunately. I just ended up I ended up wanting to work with women in the fertility nutrition field. And after I had that experience, I tried IVF again and it worked. And I think my body was ready. And I did all of the prep work that I know my body needed. And it's kind of the same stuff I do now with women. It's kind of what I teach them is just how to prepare their bodies, listen to the signs your body's giving you. But that's kind of just how I got into it.
Wow. So what did your diet look like before?
My husband and I are both really healthy. My diet wasn't
Mhm.
the issue. It's that my gut imbalance was off and I just wasn't healing it. So anything I ate triggered me. Anything like I had
Mm.
constant constipation to diarrhea, like no regular bowel movements. And then I just wasn't balanced. I know my blood sugar wasn't stable throughout the day. I know I was just spiking all day, because I was, yes, getting decent amount of protein and eating healthy carbs, but I didn't know how to like keep my blood sugar stable and how to just have a
Okay.
proper plate where I'm keeping my protein adequate, or excuse me, eating the protein and making sure I'm not eating carbs alone. So I'm not spiking blood sugar and all of that. So it's not that I wasn't eating healthy. It's just my gut needed so much work. I don't think I was really absorbing a lot of the nutrients that I was eating because my gut was
Hmm.
so just damaged. But yeah, now it's just I focus more really on warm foods. I am really good about stabilizing my blood sugar and not,
Yeah.
letting my blood sugar spike all day so I don't get those constant crashes, and just supporting my body in so many ways.
Yeah, and I know, so there's a few things I want to dive into, but I know that you just briefly mentioned warm foods. And I think that that's a very interesting topic that you brought up because I do feel like people are like, oh, I'm eating salad, oh, I'm eating a lot of raw foods. But a lot of foods maybe just need a blanching or they just need, to be sauteed for even just a minute uh, because it helps with, it aids in digestion. So can you walk me through what types of foods do you see people they are healthy, but when they're eating it in the raw state, it's actually not aiding in digestion.
Yeah, and it's okay to have the salad and the berries. It's just the cold foods kind of just slow your digestion, your digestive enzymes. They'll
Okay.
reduce the stomach acid efficiency. So it's just when you're introducing warm foods to your body, you're able to digest it better, and your body is able to like if you look into traditional Chinese medicine, they're all about like
Mm,
warm foods,
yeah.
and
Hot
keeping your
drinks.
body warm. Yeah, all of that. So
Mhm.
that's what I was really focusing on that year. Is even in the morning, I would have warm foods. I wasn't eating anything cold, like warm lemon water, and then eggs with some sort
Oh.
of warm sauteed veggie, which doesn't sound appealing in the mornings, but like I knew my gut needed that, and that's what I was
Mhm.
doing. I did cut out gluten and dairy for a while just because my body was so
Okay.
inflamed. I'm not really intolerant to them, but my gut just needed so much work. And so those are
Mhm.
inflammatory foods for a lot of people. So cutting them out was just the best option at the time. And I eat them now with no issues. I don't cut them out
Okay.
anymore, but at the time it's just like what I needed. But yeah, I think just the constant cold foods and drinks, just you see more bloating and gas, sluggish digestion. So I
Mm.
saw all of that improve, not with just the warm foods, but definitely that was something that I changed with my own diet. And I work a lot on with clients to help them introduce warm foods into their diet.
Yeah. It's so funny because I've always been like the type of person like I I hate cold food. I want my food always warm.
Really?
Yeah,
That's funny.
I'm not like every time I make food, I was like I want to eat it right then. I don't want to have cold food. And I don't want to pop it back in the microwave, I'm like my husband's like, "Why are you so extra?" And I'm
That's
like, I hate it."
I'm fine with warm foods, but I hate like water. I love ice water. Just fill like my Stanley, I
Mm,
used to fill it with this much ice and then water. And I stopped doing that. I just drink it room temperature now.
yeah.
I do love tea. Like I drink tea all day, herbal teas, and at night chamomile tea. But yeah, it took me a while to get used to the room temperature water. I still crave ice water, and I'll still have one, in this hot summer days. But that was definitely the hardest, I think, change for me was just room temperature water. I couldn't stand it at first.
I know. I'm like I said, I like warm stuff. So like my cup is room temperature.
Oh, really?
But my daughters, they don't. They won't drink water unless there's ice in it. But yeah, I've always been big on warm room temperature things. But
That's
like
good. I
you
mean, it's
said,
good for your
summers.
digestion.
See, and I didn't know it was all I knew like you said, Eastern medicine with hot teas. Of course I knew that. But I guess I wasn't even thinking about room temperature water and all of that helping. And So let's say someone they like salads a lot. Do you recommend putting like warm protein on top or having some warm food on the side?
Yeah, I think it's about balance. If that's your go-to meal every single day, 5, 6 days a week, then yeah, change it up. Don't just
Mhm.
do raw foods, do cooked foods as well. But I have clients that don't really have a ton of gut issues and they will have, salads a few times a week and it's okay for them. But the clients
Mhm.
that really have the gut issues that we need to work on, then I'll advise them to stay away from the raw salads and raw veggies for a little while until we get their gut
Okay.
inflammation down and just heal their gut lining. But it is all about balance. Like, don't have your food in general. You should have a variety. You don't want to
Mhm.
eat the same foods all day, every day. Your body needs a variety of foods. So it's just a good life habit to kind of have that balance.
Okay. So as you navigated through conceiving, what was it like? What was the process of them finding out that it was your gut? Like that was the main issue that needed to be addressed first.
So I knew I had gut issues. I kind of just for a while ignored it and thought, oh, everyone's like this. But then like I started to
Okay.
look around me and like nobody was constantly tired. Like I couldn't even like go through a meeting without yawning like maybe 20 times. And my boss, which is, at the time I worked in an office, he was just kind of looking at me like, why are you so tired? Like, why are you yawning? And like, I was like, I'm so healthy. Like, how am I so tired? And they're not. And then my bowel movements were just so irregular. Like, that's when I started to realize, okay, like this isn't right. Like, I don't see anyone else around me feeling this way. After I would eat, I would immediately just feel horrible. And so I explained all the symptoms to my naturopath. If I had been in the States, I live in Kuwait part of the year in the US, the other part. So I was in
Okay.
Kuwait when I was working with her virtually. There's this test called a GI map that you can do that will
Mhm.
tell you everything that's going on. It's a very intensive, comprehensive
Mhm.
stool test. I didn't do that because I was in Kuwait. They didn't have it, unfortunately. I wish
Oh,
I
okay.
could have done that test and seen exactly what was wrong. So she kind of just had to guess based off my symptoms. And she put me on like a long gut protocol for a couple months, just different supplements, targeting different things. And it worked. I had a setback once, 2 months into it, because we went to Mexico and I got food poisoning.
Oh.
Um, but other than that, like everything worked and I was fine. So she was kind of going off my symptoms, but I wasn't able to do the stool analysis that I wanted to see that
Mhm.
test will tell us exactly what overgrowth you
Mhm.
have, which bacteria is higher than it should be, all of that. So yeah, it was just kind of based off my symptoms and what I was experiencing is how she targeted everything.
Oh, okay. And like you said, you knew based off of bowel movements. So, and you said it took a year. Like, what made you say, okay, I want to try again? Because you took a break off of your fertility treatments. You then sought out the naturopath. So, what pushed you to start again?
Yeah, I worked with her September of that year, and then I went to see my IVF doctor later on just to do some testing, and she kept saying like try IVF again, like try it, like I think it'll work this time. You've taken a break, and I was like, I just kept saying no, I'm not ready. Like I was like, I just want more time. And then a few months later, I went to see her again, and she's like, Are you sure you don't want to try again? I was like, No, actually, now I feel like like all my gut issues were gone. I was so energetic. I
Okay.
literally felt like I was 10 years younger in my body. And I told my husband, like, because I had like sworn off IVF. I was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And I
Yeah.
went home that day. I was like, hey, I think I'm going to try again. He's like, are you sure? Like, you were telling me that you were done last year. I was like, yeah, but I've done a lot of work on my body. Like, I found out there was so much inflammation going on. Like, all the testing showed so much inflammation. And I just knew like I was in a better place. I kind of knew like my body was going to feel safe going into a pregnancy if I were trying IVF again. And it was. I tried again. That was September of that year that I worked with naturopath. We did IVF in end of July and I got
Mm-hmm.
pregnant. Yeah, so I got pregnant August 3rd of that following year. So almost 1 year later is when I tried again. And yeah, I honestly wasn't even surprised because I knew, like, I just went into it knowing, okay, it's going to work this time because I know I'm ready. I like did everything. I worked on gut health, egg quality, sperm quality. Like, we just
Wow.
took so much time to get ready. And that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what I see with clients. Their clinic just rushes them. And that doctor wasn't rushing me. The ones before were, but I just see them rushing into another cycle. And when they tell me their symptoms, I'm like, you're not ready. Like, your body is inflamed. Your gut is telling you it's not ready. Your period symptoms are a huge indicator of hormone balance. And when I see women with extreme cramping and clotting and heavy periods, like, those are all signs that your hormones need work. But their clinics are like, oh no, let's try again, and it's like, it's really hard to watch because I know what they're going through and I went through that. So sometimes I try to be their voice of reason and tell them, like,
Yeah.
hey, like, why don't you take a break? But when you want a baby, like, you don't want anyone to tell you to pause. Like, every month it's so hard when you get a period and you're not pregnant. So when their clinic's telling them let's try again, they're eager. They're like, oh, this time it'll work. But you really do need to pause and just listen to your body. Your body will tell you, like, there's so many signs your body will give you. And that was just my issue, is just not stopping and listening to my body, like being at the break that it needs. Looking back now, if I had a patient with the symptoms I had, or a client with the symptoms I had, there's so many red flags, like blaring alarms that were being ignored. And like, if I had a client that was ignoring that, I would be like, what is happening? But like, I was doing that to myself. So it's kind of shocking looking back at it, to be honest.
Yeah. I hear you kind of saying that you knew you were ready. Did you notice anything mentally when you first started trying, then when you went back confidently? Where was your mental state prior to the successful time?
Oh yeah, mentally too. I did a lot of mental work as well, which that naturopath also worked with me on some of that and some of it on my own. But when I started out trying, I don't know, I was kind of like, oh yeah, like IVF's gonna work. I had no idea that, like, it's not guaranteed, or I thought maybe it was like a 80% chance and that it
Yeah.
works. So the first time it didn't work, I was really shocked. The second time it didn't work, I was torn. And then every time that it didn't work, it kind of just chipped away, like, at confidence, and just, I don't know, my hope was just dwindling every time. I remember sitting once with my husband just crying and being like, am I ever going to be a mom? Like, it was, I get emotional talking about it.
No, yeah.
But yeah, my mental state was horrible. I was in a bad mental state. Um, Sorry.
No, you're okay. You're okay.
But yeah, when I started working with the naturopath, it was a lot of mindset work that she taught me. Just, I started journaling because of her, and I still journal now, which I find really like meditating. And it's not every day. I used to do it like way more frequently. Now it's just the journal's there. When I have thoughts, I'll kind of jot them down. Also, kind of like a diary, memories with my daughter that I don't want to forget, outside of like pictures. So I started doing some journaling. I got up in the mornings and just sat outside just to get that natural sunlight while I did my journaling. At night, just a lot of breath work before sleep. And sometimes journaling before bed. I started getting into meditation, yoga. I was doing yoga 3 times a week. So my mental state just started to really improve over that year. And I, like, physically and just emotionally, mentally felt so much better going into the IVF. And I think that played a huge role. I think your mindset is just so important going into it. Like, after those, every time that it didn't work, I just went into it like thinking, oh, it's not going to work again. It's not going to work again. And when you go into it with that mindset, it's just, I feel like another barrier,
Yeah.
if you're not open to a pregnancy, and then your body just kind of closes itself off in a way. So yeah, I think a lot of the preparation I did, meditating, journaling, yoga, all of that was just really helpful for me. I listened to affirmations. I found like fertility affirmations, and I would listen to them on my drive to work every day and back. So that was kind of just some of the work I did to prepare. And I still do all of that now.
Yeah, I feel, and just going into the whole purpose of Mothering Holistically is when people think holistic, I feel like it's become like a buzzword just to make people think
Yeah.
it's healthy. But holistic is really treating the whole person. And you seeking out the naturopath and the nutritionist was a great way for you to heal your inside, heal your mental. And that, I'm sure, because she wasn't able to do the stool test, she then had to ask you, what's your home life like? Like, what are you having a stressful job? Are you getting enough sleep? Like all of those things is the holistic, natural approach to make sure we're treating the whole person. So I'm also
Yeah.
I'm a massage therapist and health educator. So that was big
Okay.
in, that was big in like our learning was, just it's more than just going in for a massage, just to be on that topic. It's more than just going in for a massage. Like we would definitely talk to our clients and understand if it's something more, because even that knowing is half the battle. So even them starting to kind of talk about it, possibly get emotional, and then have the therapy session, it was definitely more transformative than just like, okay, get on the table, try to rub out these knots. So it kind of
Yeah,
just goes full
honestly.
circle to a lot of things. Yeah. So I like that, she gave you those tools to start with your breath is huge. Some people say that they don't have time to breathe, but taking that time to acknowledge yourself, acknowledge your surroundings, pause, doing the yoga, doing the stretches, journaling, being able to look back on good days and bad. Why were the days good? Why were the days bad? All that stuff, I definitely can see that that would have had a huge
Yeah.
impact, not just the food and, that type of thing. So, what type of advice when someone is struggling and they feel that they're about to give up, what do you say to them?
What, when it comes to like struggling with fertility?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just about, I think when you get to that point, then that's when you take a break. You look at what's going
Mm,
on. Are there more tests you can do? Is there mental work, emotional work you can do? I mean, I also had a therapist too, like a counselor, that I worked
okay.
with I had a few sessions with her as well during that year that helped. And just having like a support system. Are there people you can speak with? Is there a community you can find? If you need that break and you're getting to that point, then I think it's best to take that break and then just do some
Mm,
more digging. If you're doing it on your own, like get someone to help you like I did. I worked with a naturopath and that nutritionist. And that's what I see a lot of women going through it alone and just using Google to like, oh, what supplement can I take? What can I use for my gut
yeah.
health? Chat GPT this. And like, yeah, those are great resources to find information, but they're not going to understand your symptoms. They're not going to
Mm,
understand what your body needs, what your history is. So I think personalized care would be like at the top of my list. Get personalized care. Don't just rely on the internet and like forums to try to work your way through fertility. It's just gonna like
yeah.
delay like your goal. And then when you need that break, like take that break. I know if time feels like it's just slipping away through your fingers when you're going through fertility, but sometimes that break is what your body needs, especially when
Mm,
you're just like up here, when it's like driving you crazy, when you're not ready, when you're feeling all the emotions. I think that's when those breaks are just really necessary, just to kind of reset your body. It doesn't have to be a year like mine was. It could be maybe you just take a 1 or 2 cycles off without trying and you don't think about fertility for a month or two and then you get back into it. And maybe that's all you need.
yeah. And if you don't mind, share what makes you comfortable, but if you don't mind going into detail about what that process looks like from the first appointment to the treatment itself, especially for those that are possibly they haven't started but they're considering it. Do you mind walking us through what that process looks like?
Yeah. So for IVF, first you'll go in and you'll start stimulation medicine to grow your follicles for the egg retrieval. And that's
Okay.
usually a couple weeks. They'll put you on some injections and they'll monitor you every 2 to 3 days. Usually you'll go in for an ultrasound to see how your follicles are growing. Once your follicles are a certain size, they'll give you what's called a trigger shot, which it has the HCG hormone in it, and that is what gets your body to normally like ovulate or release the follicle. But in this instance, they just want to get you ready for the egg retrieval. So they'll give you the trigger shot, usually 36 hours before the egg retrieval. You'll go in for the egg retrieval. You go under anesthesia. They'll use like a long little needle catheter to go into your ovaries and kind of just suck out the eggs, the follicles. And then you'll wake up. You'll be in some discomfort. It's pretty uncomfortable for the first day. Second day is a bit better. But that day you just kind of want to rest, lay on the couch, take it really easy. Once they have your eggs, they'll take the sperm and they'll fertilize them in a little dish in the lab. And they'll call you, or maybe it's a portal, or I was getting phone calls from my clinics, but I know sometimes they'll just upload your notes into a portal, but they'll kind of give you updates how your eggs are fertilizing with the sperm. So second and third day, they'll monitor the embryos and let you know how they're growing. So like day 3, every day that you have the fertilization, some of the embryos will fall off. So let's say you had 10 eggs. Out of those 10, not all of them will be mature. Maybe if you're lucky, 8 or 9 will be mature and 1 won't. But some women, maybe 5 won't be mature and they can't use them. It really just depends how much work you did and where, our eggs grew 90 days prior. So whatever eggs you have now are from 90 days ago. So that's kind of what I work on with women, is improving egg health before the egg retrieval. But yeah, once whatever number of eggs you end up with is not really how many embryos you have. It'll just dwindle down from there. So on day 3, they'll tell you you have this many embryos, and then they'll continue to monitor them to day 5. Usually day 5 is when they're a blastocyst, and then you have the option to test. It's just the number of cells that have grown to day 5 become a blastocyst. It's like 200 something cells by then for each embryo. And by day 5 is usually when okay, this is how many embryos I have, or hey, this many didn't survive. And day 5 is when they'll freeze them and test them. So if they've made it to day 5, then that's great. Like that's a good number that you'll end up with, unless you decide to test them. So if you test them, they'll test them to see if they're normal or abnormal embryos. Some countries I know won't test, like it's not allowed. I've heard women tell me that. Like in the UK, they won't test unless, I don't even remember the rules, to be honest. But anyway, in the States, you have the option to pay to test them. Once they test them, they'll just take a little bit of the cell from the embryo to test it, and then they'll freeze them. Or you can do what's called go ahead.
I'm sorry. Do they explain, like, because you're saying some countries don't allow for testing, do they explain like are there risks when you test them?
There are risks for testing. There's a risk of damaging the embryo. But I think in the UK, one of the women told me, unless you've had, I think she said multiple failed cycles, they won't test, or multiple miscarriages. Something like that. And then in some countries, they just think it's unethical to test, so they won't test. But yeah, there is a small risk of damage to the embryos. So if some places will also do what's called a fresh transfer. Well, they'll just take that embryo on day 5 and put it in you. That's called an embryo transfer. They'll transfer the embryo into your uterus, and then you'll wait the 2 weeks and see if you're pregnant. But a lot of people that I've worked with aren't doing fresh transfers because they're testing them and freezing them. So if you test them, you have to freeze them and wait for the results, and then you'll transfer it the next cycle, your next period. So it just depends on clinics and countries. They have different rules, but that's really the process of the egg collection. And then later, let's say you have frozen that embryo and you are going to transfer it. They'll put you on some medicine, usually estrogen, to get you ready and prime your uterine lining for a couple weeks. And then usually 2-3 weeks into your cycle is when that embryo transfer happens. And they'll just take that frozen embryo, they'll thaw it out and transfer it into you same way as they would as a fresh transfer. And the transfer is not painful. No anesthesia. You just lay there. You'll see it on the monitor. You'll see kind of like, looks like a little spark when the embryo goes into your uterus. You're like watching it. It's pretty cool.
That is,
So
and they did say, I mean, I've seen, there's so much on the internet, but I have seen that when an egg is fertilized, it does have that like emission of like, like you said, like a star or spark. So that is interesting that you talked about it in that way, because I always thought that was so cool. It's like life. No.
yeah, you get to see it on the screen, like a little spark goes off in your uterus.
So I did want to ask, when they do implant the egg, I've heard mixed things. So is it you choose how many, or do they implant all of them to hope that you're going to get pregnant? How does that work?
No, so in the States, usually they'll only transfer one. They're more strict about it, I
Okay.
think, in the States and some places. Other places will transfer two. I've always done two at every transfer. I did two
Okay.
with my daughter, and one embryo took. I was actually hoping
Okay.
for twins, but I didn't get twins. Um, but it just depends on the clinic, your age. I know some countries, if you're over age 35, they're more willing, or sometimes it's 35, sometimes it's 37, 38. It just really depends on the clinic. But they're willing to
Mm,
put two embryos instead of one after that age, just to give
okay.
you a better chance at a pregnancy. And then, but usually I know all my clients in the States, their clinics will only allow one transfer just because multiple pregnancies, you're more high risk. And then you also can know the gender when you do the testing in the States. So you can choose the
Mm,
gender sometimes. I know, I think it's Australia and some other countries, they'll let you do the testing for the chromosome abnormalities, but they won't do the
mhm.
gender testing because they find that unethical. So it really just varies by country. But a lot of women are in the States are putting one embryo usually.
Okay. So I also remember you saying that you were able to, I'm trying to find the words, enhance or make your eggs healthier and your sperms healthier. Is that just a supplement? What does that look like?
So there's plenty of foods that you can eat to improve egg quality, and there's supplements you can take. And that's what I did. I focused
Okay.
on just nutrition, took some supplements for myself, my husband, which a lot of people, are aware of. A lot of them, CoQ10, NAC, vitamin D, all of the omegas. But yeah, I think it's really important to work on egg and sperm quality before doing the retrieval. You want to give your eggs and sperm the best chance before going into the egg retrieval. So I think taking three
Right.
months to do that is really important, because then you're just
Okay.
giving yourself better chance of higher quality embryos when you have better quality eggs and better quality sperm, especially when you have, when I see like male factor infertility where their motility is low on the sperm, then you really want to make sure your husband is working on sperm quality as well before going into it. And then same with women, when you're older or low AMH, you just want to make sure you focus on quality, not always quantity. You may have 20
Right.
eggs, 15 eggs, great, but like if you didn't have a healthy lifestyle leading up to it and only 5 of those eggs are mature and usable, then you're just lowering your opportunity to get more embryos. So I think just doing some work the
Okay.
months before is just so critical.
Yeah, and I appreciate you giving that specific number. Like when they do the egg retrieval, it's typically eggs that are from 90 days ago. So that really gives a good, anyone trying to start, they can pull back on drinking, pull back on smoking, or pull back on a lot of fast foods or whatever the unhealthy habits are, 90 days before going through their fertility treatments or just trying to conceive in general, because you also hear a mixed opinion on when you should start taking prenatals, or how to get ahead of it, because sometimes it's like, oh, you should start a year before, or that type of thing, and you're like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, you'll hear like the ideal window is 6 to 9 months before you start trying, but a
Oh,
lot of
okay.
people aren't planning 9 months out. Like, it's kind of like, oh, sudden, like, oh, we're gonna try trying in a couple months. So I think usually 3 months is more realistic for most people in most
Hmm.
lives. So especially like people going into the IVF world, they're not gonna take 9 months off and prepare. Like they're usually exhausted from trying, and they have been trying naturally
Hmm.
for 1 or 2 years, and they're just ready to have a baby. So
Yeah.
I feel like telling, in 3 months is fine. Like eggs and sperm are, like I said, sperm is 85 days roughly, and eggs are about
Okay.
90. So that's why we say 3 months. If
Mm.
you can give it 6 months, and even better, especially to help lower
Yeah.
inflammation and fix gut. But I think 3 months is a good window.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, it's always beneficial to be healthier.
Exactly.
Um, but I did like when you were saying that because, like you said, sometimes it's spontaneous. Like, let's just do it, and I really want a baby. So yeah, I like that. So, how was the conversation in regard to you and your husband? What was that support like, and what did you appreciate about being able to communicate the ups and the downs with your partner?
Yeah, my husband's supportive. He travels a lot for work, so he wasn't there at most of the appointments. So it was kind of me going through
Okay.
that. But yeah, like anytime I wanted to try again, he was on board. Like he knew how badly I wanted to be a mother, and like I really wasn't gonna stop until I became one. We did look into surrogacy at one point when that last IVF
Okay.
failed. When I started taking that time off, I considered surrogacy, but I reached out to some agencies, and it was like a really long wait to get to the top of the list and get a surrogate. It was like almost sometimes 2 to 3 years. And I was like, I don't
Wow.
want to sit around for 2 to 3 years waiting. Like, I would like to just, like, I thought about it and I was like, no, I'd rather put in the work and fix my body and try again and see if it works
Uh-huh.
instead of sitting around waiting for 2, 3 years. But yeah, he was supportive, and even the surrogacy idea, he was supportive. He's like, whatever it took to have a baby, and he had 2 kids from his previous marriage, but he was more than happy to have more with me. He took the supplements, he did, whatever, he didn't care.
Oh,
But
that's
yeah,
good.
we would talk. I also had my sisters and best friend to rely on. I would just kind of, going through infertility is hard, and they
Mm.
don't know what I'm going through. I get that, but like just listening to me vent or cry is really sometimes all you need. But yeah, once I got pregnant, I did actually meet. I had some friends that were going through IVF at the same time, and we got pregnant together. So that was nice. Like they
Oh.
understand the process, and what it's like. So it is nice having someone who understands what you're going through, just because
Hmm.
they know what it feels like, which is kind of like why I like doing what I do now. Like I know what these women are going through. Like sometimes I feel like even my fertility doctors have no idea what we're going through because they've never done IVF. They're just like telling you go, go, go again. And I'm like, you have no idea how this medicine makes me feel. You have no idea how
Hmm.
exhausting it is to grow these eggs in my ovaries every time and get them sucked out of me, and like the pain and the
Yeah.
disappointment, all of that. So like watching these women go through it, like I know exactly what it's like to be in their shoes, and I feel like they know that, and I feel like I'm in some way like that person that they can just vent to sometimes and kind of lean on for
Yeah.
that support outside of the nutrition and the help that I do with them, because sometimes you just need that. It's very hard. Like it could be a really,
Mhm.
lonely road even though you have people to talk to.
Yeah, and with the hospitals and things, it becomes you're just another price tag. And I interviewed another mom, she's an OBGYN, and before she had children, she couldn't connect in on that level. She was like, "You're fine, dust it off."
Wow.
And it's like when she went through and had her first baby and so on, it was like, oh no, this is painful. There's more to, just the physical side, there's the mental side, and just so much into it. So that is great that you started the wellness whisk to be able to support not just their physical needs, but even, having some emotional support. And how do you influence others to build that village? Let's say they don't have a lot of family or they do, how do you go about telling them to have those conversations to get a few people around them when they need a shoulder?
So within the wellness whisk, what I just actually started doing recently is I will decided I'm going to start doing group coaching calls with all the girls that are currently enrolled in my program. We actually have our first call tonight, believe it or not. I've been thinking about it for a while. Like, I want them to have a community because I know they have family they could talk to, but like I said, it's so different. Like when someone understands and is going through the same thing as you, like your friends and your family are, you know, always going to be there, but like it's just not the same. So I'm going to have these group calls with the girls where they can get in or hop on the call, and I will go over, you know, some sort of fertility topic, but then open it to Q&A where they get to know each other and have a community. And there's going to be a group chat for them to talk and just vent, or, hey, are you having these symptoms? Like whatever it is they want to use it for, it's for them. So that's one way that I would like to help them kind of build more of a community with each other. But yeah, I think just finding your avenue, whatever it is, like a therapist, your acupuncturist, your best friend, your sister, your mom, whoever it is, whoever that person is, your partner. I mean, also the partner, like the husbands are usually great and so supportive, but like they also don't understand, like their part in it is usually very easy. And like the woman is taking all the injections and I even have a client, it's male infertility solely, like there's nothing wrong with her, but like she's the one that has to do all the injections and the egg retrieval and all of that to have the baby. So like it's always just a lot more on the woman. I feel like just it takes a toll. So whatever that support is for you, I think it's and some women, it's like they're acupuncturists, they love going there and talking to them and venting and just telling them how they feel, or for me it was just multiple people.
Yeah. I never knew that when it's the male side of infertility. I thought that they would receive injections as well, but you're saying that it's still just the woman?
The men can receive injections to increase sperm count, but it's not often that men take injections. You don't need, like, even if the husband has low sperm, they can still take what they need for IVF to fertilize an egg and a sperm and make an embryo. They don't need a ton of it, you know, they just need that one good sperm. But yeah, there are some men who have to take injections because their sperm count is so low, but that's not really that often. Like very, very few clients' husbands take anything aside from supplements. They are taking supplements, but not usually injections. And then their role in it is they show up at the clinic, they ejaculate, and then that's it. They mix that with the egg and make the embryo. So their part is usually way easier than the woman.
Wow. And what was your process? I know you said journaling and things, but was there anything else that helped you get through the doubt, the negative self-talk? You know, what did that look like for you?
I think it was just that break. Like taking that break made me realize like I can do it. Like I reached a point where I was like, I don't think my body can have a baby. Like I don't think I'm gonna be able to do it. But I think taking that break and doing all of that work on myself is what made me like kind of shift that mindset and think like I can get pregnant. It's just a matter of getting the help I need. I don't know if I would have gotten pregnant if I didn't take that time and do the gut work and the, you know, lowering inflammation, all of that. I think if I just kept trying, I would have just seen the same results, which is what I see women doing a lot. They'll reach out in my DMs like, oh, I've been doing this. I'm like, then I'll ask them about their symptoms on a call and their digestion is off and their hormones are off. So I think it's just taking that break. And for me, it was working on myself and then coming out of it with a new mindset, realizing, okay, I can do this. I'm ready. And just feeling like safe to conceive. I think that's what my body needed.
Yeah. And in terms of like cost and things, has there been I know there was talk of insurance helping more with IVF. Have you noticed it become more affordable, or do you feel that it's different in all countries? You know, what is your take on affordability?
It is definitely different. It varies so much country to country. I think in the US, slowly, some insurance companies are starting to cover medicine or parts of the procedure. I still wouldn't call it affordable in the US. It's very expensive. I don't have exact numbers. I've always done my IVF here in Kuwait. But I
Okay.
know it can run from 25 to $40,000, and not
Okay.
everyone's insurance covers that. I know it's a
And is that
huge
every
financial.
cycle?
No, so like the egg retrieval usually is the most expensive because
Okay.
the medicine to grow the follicles, putting you under anesthesia, taking the eggs out, and then
Mm.
freezing them. That's usually the most expensive part. Later, when you freeze them and you take one of those embryos and do an embryo transfer, it's a bit cheaper. But I think
Okay.
total, like from start to finish, all of that combined can be anywhere from 20 to 40,000
Wow.
for like maybe a few transfers. I know it's a financial burden for a lot of clients. I know some clients, some of their insurance pays for a lot of it. We're
Mm.
extremely grateful. My husband's insurance has covered all of it. Like I will
Wow.
never take that for granted. All of those cycles were covered. I didn't pay anything out of pocket. And I know that would have been a completely different story if we had to pay for all of those cycles. There's
Is
also a
that
lot of women.
exclusive to Kuwait?
Um, his insurance is no, it's exclusive to anywhere outside of the US pretty much. It's like an international coverage that we have through
Okay.
our
Okay.
insurance. So if we did it anywhere outside of the US, it's 100% covered. If we did it in the US, we would have had to pay some of it ourselves. And then I know a lot of people go to Greece or Turkey to do IVF because it's very affordable there. I think someone told me they did an entire round of IVF in Greece for like $7,000, which is a
Okay.
fraction of the US.
Yeah.
Same for Turkey. It's about, I think, similar. So a lot of people from
Okay.
the UK are like, when their IVF keeps failing in the UK, they'll go to Greece and try. And then same in the US, a lot of people will go there and try, or to Turkey. So it is a more
Mm.
affordable in some countries. Here in Kuwait, I think I think each cycle would have been about $15,000.
Okay.
So still less than the US. 15,
Yeah.
15 to 20, somewhere in that range.
Mm.
Um, so definitely still less than the US.
Yeah, it's definitely something that we all hear. It's like IVF is very expensive. And I'm hoping
Yes,
things
very.
change, especially because it's like, you want to have a child and the US population is dwindling and things like that. And it's
Yeah, you would think they would
it's
make
always
it
this, yeah,
affordable or cover it so
yeah.
like people can have babies because the population is dwindling all over the world actually. So you would
Mm-hmm.
think it would be like
Mm-hmm.
an incentive, like, hey, we'll cover your IVF if you cannot have children and you want children. It kind of blows my
Yeah.
mind that it's not fully covered and funded by insurance and governments.
Yeah, it's definitely very frustrating because it's a beast that preys on vulnerability, and having a child is so sacred and it's so important, and extending your legacy. I mean, there's just so much that goes into wanting children, and then when you find out that you can't, and then you learn that the main way that you can, it has this huge price tag. I can only imagine how frustrating that could be for some people because
Yeah.
it's just money is standing in the way of their baby. It's just so hard that I can only imagine.
Yeah, and all these people that are put in these positions, like a lot of them like will pay this amount even though it's costing them so much and like such a burden on them because they want a child. Like you don't want
Hmm.
to not try, and it's like you'll do whatever it takes to have a child. So it's just really sad to me that it's so expensive and they haven't made it more affordable in the States.
Yeah, yeah, such a and the number of people. I'll add the statistic on here, but I just see the number is going up significantly. I don't know if it's the last time I saw, it was like 14 or 20% or something like that, which is pretty high, especially with the number of people trying to have kids has lowered. So for it to be that high amongst the people trying to have kids experiencing infertility, it's like, wow, that's a big number.
Yeah, I think it's like 1 in 6 couples experience infertility now. I think it's 1 in 6.
Wow.
It's pretty high, yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah. And a lot of people will do IUI first before they move on to
Right.
IVF. And IUI is a lot more
Did you
affordable.
did you try IUI?
We did. We tried a lot of rounds of IUI. We weren't even really candidates for IUI. And one of the doctors even told us that, but I just wasn't ready to move on to IVF, I think.
So what does IUI look like?
IUI, so if you ovulate regularly, sometimes the doctor won't give you anything. They'll just monitor you until you're ovulating. But sometimes they'll give a woman Clomid pills to get her to ovulate. And then once it looks like your egg is ready to ovulate, they'll give you that trigger shot. And then 36 hours later, you'll come back. They'll take your husband's sperm and just inseminate it directly into the uterus. So it's into the cavity. So it just gets closer to the egg. The sperm gets closer to the egg. So it's very simple, a lot less, involved than IVF. But like the chances of it working are not as high as IVF usually. And then if like the man has low sperm count, then you're usually not really a good candidate for it. You're a better candidate for IVF. But like I knew a girl who tried IVF first and she wasn't responding to the medicine. Like her eggs wouldn't grow. So she couldn't do IVF. So she had to do IUI and ended up getting pregnant with IUI after several rounds. But it just kind of depends on your situation. But usually I know a lot of people will try IUI first before moving on to IVF.
So do you know the cost difference with IUI compared to IVF?
I mean, I don't know the exact numbers, but like I know here the IUI is only like maybe $1,000 for everything, $1,000 to $2,000 for everything.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty affordable in comparison to IVF.
Yeah.
But then a lot
so
of
here
times
it says $300 to $4,000.
Okay. But the issue with IUI is a lot of people will have to do like 5, 6, 7 rounds before it works. So then that adds up.
Yeah.
So it just depends. Some people get lucky and the IUI works the first or second time, but I know people who it worked on the 7th, 8th time.
Wow. I know this is such, this topic is trying to have a baby and not being able to is such a tender topic. And I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me, especially all the way from Kuwait.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. I love that more women are also getting online and talking about infertility and like sharing their stories. I think that helps also for that community building. Just to feel like you know other people that are going through it, even though if you don't know them personally, like you just kind of watch their stories and you know what they're feeling because you're feeling it too. So I think that just kind of helps get more people to talk about it and like get help,
Yeah. For me, it's just wanting to, like you said, connect and build that community and offer those that are experiencing that a space. And I loved when I saw your page and everything. I just loved what you're trying to do. And, you understood that it's hard and there was so much that you didn't know. And sometimes educating yourself is a great first step so that you can, like you said, prepare and hopefully save yourself. It's so hard to say that, like save yourself some money if you can prepare beforehand. I hate that there's that price tag and that thought, but it is reality. And going in, like I said, going into it more educated and more can possibly have quicker results if you prepare ahead of time.
Yeah, for sure. I think really just even a woman that's not experiencing infertility, it's just so important to get your body ready first so that you have a healthy baby. You're giving that baby the best chance that it has. And there's so much research. One of my really close friends here does research on preconception health, and they're starting to realize there's like so much that goes into what happens to the baby before the mother even gets pregnant and before the and the father's role too, the sperm. So it just in general, I think preparing your body for the IVF, the IUI, just doing some work first, I think can save some heartache.
Yeah, and I actually saw some studies that are starting to appear, and people are looking into because there's always, like you said, this blame. Everything is put onto the woman. She has to deal with, the injections or just growing the baby in general. And then when you have all the treatments on top of trying to grow the baby, you have all these treatments and things. But there's it's study. I feel like it's new, but I have been fascinated by the quality of your pregnancy in terms of mood fluctuations, like your sleep quality. Different things actually are connected to the man, and they're connected to him being prepared to impregnate you. And they're linking a lot of different things with, if the man wasn't taking care of his body when you're impregnated by him, you can have a more trying pregnancy than if he would have also prepared with you. So I love that these studies are coming up, because it's always this pressure put on the woman. Why are you acting crazy? Why are you so moody? Why are you feeling this way? You shouldn't be so tired. My friend's wife isn't that tired. Why are you so tired? And it's like, I'm not your friend's wife.
Yeah.
I'm not her. So
No, that's a really good point. It's always like the woman that's looked at, and there's a lot of research coming out that the male has a huge influence on the pregnancy. So that's one of the things my girlfriend studies is the sperm determines the placental health, and then preeclampsia they're saying is linked to sperm health too. So the man has a huge role in the pregnancy, the baby, all of it.
Yeah, I know. All the things that they thought I was going to experience, like the gestational diabetes, preeclampsia, all of that, they thought I was going to experience. And I didn't. And it was always like, every time I went in, my blood pressure was great. My blood, my blood sugar was great. And they were just always like, oh, your numbers are so good. And I'm like, oh, what a shock, But then when I saw those studies, I was like, thanks, husband,
You did good.
Yeah.
You did your part.
We're good. We're healthy. So yeah, when I started seeing all that, and he was like, yeah, I got to take care of myself. I got to take my supplement.
That's good. Good. I'm glad he's proud.
Yeah, but I just thought that was fascinating. And it does take... It's something that feels like common sense. Like, duh, it takes two to have a baby. Duh, there would be some implication. There would be some effect that you have besides just fertilizing me. But a lot of people don't think about it that way.
No, they don't. And I think just in general, a lot of the pregnancies, just like a lot of the male issues haven't been looked at a lot in the past. Like, I think it's just all so new, and people are realizing like how important it is for the man to prepare too.
Yeah. And then one of my last conversations, they were talking about epigenetics, and even going back into what they did back in the day. If you weren't giving them a son, or if you couldn't have kids, it was like, off with her head,
Yeah.
It's her, and it's like, damn.
I know. All those poor women that were pressured to have a son, and the whole time it was their husband, back in the day.
They didn't even know. Yeah, they didn't even know. So it's wild when you look at it. It's wild when you look at it.
I mean, at least things are changing, and we're realizing all this,
All right. So as we finish, do you have any last things that, you want to share, things that maybe I didn't ask that you feel is important for someone to know, either about to embark on this journey, or they're in the thick of it? Do you have any words of encouragement?
Yeah, I think it's so easy for women going through infertility to feel like you're broken, or you're like a failure because you can't get pregnant. And I think it's so important to push those thoughts aside and not think that way, because you're not broken. Your body just might need help in one area or another. And it's important to find out what it is that your body needs help with. But I think a lot, like I did that a lot, like feeling I was broken, or, a failure because I couldn't get pregnant, or wasn't getting pregnant, or miscarrying, whatever it is. I think just so important to not think that way, to push past those thoughts and just kind of get the help you need, like outside of your fertility clinic. Your fertility clinic is just going to only do so much. Get help
Mm-hmm.
outside of it. Nutritionist, naturopath, therapist, whatever it is that you know you need, get that help before continuing to try, because it's just like a dark road that you don't want to go down when you start having those
Yeah.
thoughts. So don't feel like you're broken. Don't feel like you're a failure. It's not that. It's just your body needs some work and to get you to that stage of motherhood. And once you have that baby, like all of it will just be, I wouldn't
Worth it.
say worth it. I don't, excuse me. It is worth it. Yes. It's just, how do I explain it? Yes, it was all worth it to get there. Um, but like I don't know. I don't know how I'm trying to say it.
I mean, you can take a
Maybe
second to think about it, because, yeah, definitely be honest and real with what they can expect to feel.
like, yeah, like the road sucks. Like I wouldn't wish it on anyone. And I wish I didn't have to go through it, like to have my daughter. Like I wish I could have just had a natural pregnancy with my husband and not dealt with all that. But that's not the cards that we were dealt with. But that's what we were dealt with and that's what we had to face. So like don't beat yourself up for it. Just get to your goal, and whatever you need to get to your goal, do it. Like get the work that you need, the specialized, personalized care. And yes, that child will be worth it, but you don't need to that's what I was trying to say. You don't need to make that road harder to get there. You can get the specialized, personalized care that you need to remove those hurdles that you don't need to face. Like I wasted, I feel like 2 years, of time where I could have maybe gotten pregnant earlier. And so just, make your road to motherhood a little bit smoother to get to pregnancy, because yes, that child is worth whatever you went through to get there, but like maybe you don't have to go through some of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, learn
That's what I
from
was
others. And then how can people connect with you?
I'm on Instagram, the Wellness Whisk, so _Wellness Whisk. I'm also on TikTok on the same username. I have a website, thewellnesswhisk.com. You can have a free 20-minute chat with me where I'll go over what you're facing, your fertility challenges, and kind of explain my program and see if it's a good fit for you. But yeah, I'm on both social media platforms, very active on both, and then my website as well. So you can reach out any three of those ways.
Perfect. And then finish the sentence for me. Mothering holistically means.
Just embracing it all in the ups, the downs, the good, the bad, and just kind of like what I do anyway with my health and life in general, just holistically with everything, just kind of taking it all as a whole and not just looking at motherhood as one aspect or one thing. But yeah, kind of just embracing it all the good, the bad.
Yeah, I let you say what you have to say. I don't add anything. So I love that. And then of course all of Shivan's information will be linked in the description down below. Her website, her social media handles and everything like that. And then, of course, you can follow me at Kaylee Berlinee on all social media platforms. Follow the podcast at Mothering Holistically. And then tag us if you learned anything. If you are struggling and you just want someone to talk to, definitely reach out to either me or Shivan. And, of course, subscribe and follow. Give us feedback because we need it. If there's anything that you want to hear. So until next time, remember to mother holistically and thrive authentically. I'm your host, Kaylee Berlinee, and together we're winning. Bye, y'all.
Thanks for having me, Kaylee.